The massive chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with excitement. Floating screens displayed images of the same thing, a small fleet of sleek, silver ships approaching the Council's border station. First contact with a new species was always an important event, but this one felt different. The vessels were tiny compared to the Council's mighty warships, and this made many of the gathered representatives smile with barely hidden contempt. Admiral Reed stood at the front of the chamber, his tall, blue-skinned form towering over the holographic display. His four eyes blinked in sequence as he studied the approaching human ships. "Fascinating," he said, though his tone suggested anything but fascination. "They've managed to achieve faster-than-light travel in vessels no larger than our pleasure yachts." The chamber filled with polite laughter. Even the usually stoic rock people, with their crystal-like bodies, vibrated in amusement. The human fleet consisted of just 5 ships, each about the size of a small cargo vessel. They moved with precise formation, their hulls gleaming under the light of distant stars. The largest ship, which the humans had identified as their diplomatic vessel, was barely a quarter the size of a standard council cruiser. Their transmission requests peaceful contact, one of the junior officers reported. "They call themselves humans from the planet Earth." Admiral Reed waved a hand dismissively. "Let them dock. I want to see these humans in person." He turned to address the council. "My friends, I suggest we approach this with our usual wisdom. A primitive species has stumbled upon faster-than-light travel. They will need our guidance, our protection, and, of course, our governance." More knowing chuckles echoed through the chamber. The council had encountered many young species before. All eventually accepted their place in the hierarchy. The human delegation arrived an hour later. Ambassador Tom Parker led the small group, walking with confident steps despite being surrounded by aliens twice his size. He wore a simple blue uniform with minimal decorations, which only added to the council's amusement. Even their janitors wore more elaborate clothing. "Greetings, noble council," Parker said, his voice clear and steady. "On behalf of Earth and humanity, I bring you friendship and the hope of peaceful cooperation." Admiral Reed stepped forward, his ceremonial cape sweeping the floor. "Welcome, tiny ones. We are impressed you've managed to reach us at all. Your ships are quite small." He paused, waiting for the usual reaction of embarrassment or defense. Parker simply smiled. "Size isn't everything, Admiral. We believe in efficiency." "Efficiency." Reed's upper eyes narrowed while his lower ones widened, a sign of amusement in his species. "Your vessels wouldn't survive a single shot from our smallest defensive batteries." "How is that efficient?" The human ambassador maintained his calm smile. "We have our methods, Admiral. Perhaps we could discuss more important matters. Earth wishes to establish diplomatic relations and possibly trade agreements with the Council." One of the rock people spoke up, their crystalline voice ringing through the chamber. "Trade? What could you possibly offer us? Your technology is clearly centuries behind ours." Parker turned to face the crystal being. "You might be surprised. We've developed several unique approaches to—" "Enough," Admiral Reed interrupted. "Here is what we offer. Earth will be granted protected status. You will submit to Council authority, and in return, we will ensure your safety and guide your development. This is most generous, considering your limited capabilities." The other human delegates shifted uncomfortably, but Parker remained steady. "I'm afraid we'll need time to consider your offer, Admiral. Earth is an independent world, and we prefer to maintain our autonomy." This triggered genuine laughter throughout the chamber. Admiral Reed didn't even try to hide his condescension. "Consider carefully, Ambassador. The galaxy is a dangerous place for such a small fleet." "We always consider our options carefully, Admiral," Parker replied. He glanced at his datapad, which had just lit up with a message. For a brief moment, his smile became slightly harder. Very carefully indeed. The human delegation departed shortly after, returning to their tiny ships. As they pulled away from the station, Admiral Reed watched them on the main display. "Begin preparations," he commanded his staff. "These humans need to learn their place. We'll give them a week to reconsider their position." After that, he let the sentence hang in the air. None of the council members noticed the small drones that had detached from the human ships during their stay. None of them detected the quantum signals being transmitted back to Earth, and none of them realized that their dismissal of humanity's tiny fleet would soon become their biggest regret. The humans had arrived with a plan, and size, as they had tried to tell the council, wasn't everything. Intelligence Officer Jane Miller stared at her screen in the dim light of her office aboard the Earth ship Swift. Her coffee had gone cold hours ago, forgotten as she pieced together intercepted council communications. What she found made her blood run cold. "Computer, decrypt message pattern Delta 7 again," she ordered. The AI responded instantly, showing a stream of decoded alien text. There was no mistake. The Council was planning an attack on Earth. The messages were clear. Admiral Reed had convinced the Council that humanity needed to be taught respect. Their plan was simple: send a medium-sized battle fleet to Earth, expecting the primitive humans to surrender at first sight of real military power. Jane grabbed her tablet and rushed through the ship's corridors. Other crew members noticed her urgent pace and stepped aside. Within minutes, she reached the bridge where Captain Robert Brown sat reviewing ship diagnostics. "Sir," she said, trying to keep her voice steady, "we have a situation." The captain looked up from his work. "Report, Officer Miller. The Council isn't taking us seriously, and that's exactly what we wanted. But they're moving faster than expected." She handed him the tablet. "They're planning a strike force. 200 ships, sir." Captain Brown read through the report, his expression unchanging. Then, surprisingly, he smiled. "Well, they're certainly making this easy for us." He pressed a button on his command chair. "Get me Ambassador Parker." The ambassador's face appeared on the main screen. He listened carefully as Jane presented her findings. "Timeline?" Parker asked. 10 days, sir," Jane replied. "They're gathering ships from their nearby sectors. They think a small force will be enough to handle our tiny fleet." Parker nodded. "Perfect. Send the coded burst to Earth Defense Command. Authorization code: Trojan Horse." The bridge crew worked quickly, sending the encrypted message back to Earth through their quantum network. The Council's sensors would never detect it. Meanwhile, in the Council's main chamber, things were moving forward. Admiral Reed stood proudly before the gathered representatives, explaining his plan. "The humans have ignored our generous offer," he announced. "Their pride will be their downfall. Our fleet will arrive at their home system, and they will learn the price of defiance." One of the younger council members, a being of pure energy contained in a mechanical suit, spoke up. "But what if they resist?" Admiral Reed laughed. "With what? Their toy ships. Our scans show their entire defensive fleet consists of only 30 vessels. They're all as small as the ones we saw. This will be the easiest conquest in Council history." Back on the Swift, Jane continued monitoring Council communications. She watched as their arrogance grew with each passing hour. Not once did they question why Earth's ships were so small. Not once did they wonder about the strange energy readings their sensors had detected but dismissed. Captain Brown called a crew meeting in the ship's main hall. "Listen up, everyone. The Council has taken the bait. They think we're primitive, weak, and defenseless." He paused, looking at each crew member. "Let them think that. Keep running passive scans only. Maintain radio silence except for standard diplomatic channels." "Sir," one of the engineers asked, "should we begin warming up the core systems?" "Not yet. Let them keep underestimating us. Remember your training. Remember what Earth's ships can really do." In her quarters that night, Jane reviewed the Council's battle plans one more time. 200 ships against Earth's 30. On paper, it looked like a slaughter waiting to happen. But she knew better. She pulled up an image of a Council warship on her screen. Huge, imposing, covered in weapons. Next to it, she placed an image of her own ship, the Swift. Small, sleek, seemingly harmless. She thought about what was hidden beneath its simple exterior, about the technologies the Council couldn't even imagine. The Council saw size and assumed power. They saw small ships and assumed weakness. They'd never stopped to ask why a species capable of faster-than-light travel would build such small vessels. They would learn soon enough. As Jane prepared for sleep, a message flashed on her screen. Earth Defense Command had responded to their warning. Operation Pandora's Box is authorized. Stand by for further instructions. The humans knew the attack was coming. And unlike the Council, they were ready. The Council battle fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. 200 warships, their massive hulls gleaming under the distant sunlight, formed an intimidating wall of metal and weapons. At the center of the formation, Admiral Reed stood on his flagship's bridge, watching Jupiter's storm swirl in the distance. "Send the message," he ordered. "Let's give these humans one last chance to surrender." The transmission went out across all frequencies. "Attention Earth forces. This is Admiral Reed of the Galactic Council. Your defiance ends today. Surrender your planet and submit to Council authority, or face immediate destruction." The response came faster than expected. A single transmission, short and clear. "This is Captain Mark Russell of the Earth Defense Fleet. We decline your offer, Admiral. Leave our space, or we will defend ourselves." Laughter erupted across the Council fleet's command channel. Their scanners showed only 30 small human ships moving to intercept them. The largest human vessel was barely the size of a Council scout ship. "Very well," Admiral Reed said, his voice filled with amusement. "All ships, battle formations. Let's make this quick. Target their lead vessel first." The Council fleet moved forward with practiced precision. Their massive guns turned toward the approaching human ships. Energy readings spiked as weapon systems charged. "Sir," one of Reed's officers called out, "the human ships, they're not turning away." "Of course not," Reed replied. "They're too primitive to understand their situation. Open fire." The first volley from the Council fleet lit up space like artificial stars. Enormous energy beams and plasma torpedoes streaked toward the human ships. Admiral Reed waited for the satisfying sight of explosions. Instead, his 4 eyes widened in shock. The human ships didn't explode. They didn't even try to dodge. A shimmer of blue energy appeared around each vessel, and the Council's weapons simply vanished. "Impossible," Reed shouted. "What kind of shields are those?" Fire again. The second volley had the same result. Not a single human ship showed even minimal damage. They kept advancing, silent and steady. Then Captain Russell's voice came over the command channel again. "We warned you, Admiral. Now it's our turn." The tiny human ships suddenly transformed. Panels shifted, hidden compartments opened, and each vessel seemed to grow before the Council's stunned eyes. What looked like simple hull plates reconfigured into weapon ports. Dozens of small, sleek shapes launched from previously invisible bays. "What's happening?" Reed demanded. "Report." "Sir, we're detecting hundreds of, thousands of small craft launching from the human ships. There's some kind of automated combat drones. Our targeting systems can't lock onto them. They're too fast." The human drones swarmed through the Council fleet like angry insects. Their weapons were small but precise, targeting engines and weapon systems with surgical accuracy. Council ships began losing power, their massive guns falling silent. "Concentrate fire," Reed ordered, but it was useless. The human ships had closed the distance now, revealing even more surprises. Energy beams that passed straight through Council shields. Missiles that seemed to ignore the laws of physics, weapons the Council had never seen before. A nearby Council cruiser exploded, its reactor breached by a precise drone strike. Then another fell silent, its systems completely shut down. The mighty Council fleet, which had expected an easy victory, found itself in chaos. "Sir," Reed's second-in-command shouted, "We've lost 30 ships already. The humans, their technology, it's beyond anything we expected." Reed watched in horror as his fleet fell apart. The human ships moved like dancers through the battlefield, their small size now a clear advantage. They slipped between the larger Council vessels, their drones wreaking havoc while their advanced shields absorbed every counterattack. "All ships, retreat," Reed finally ordered. "Back to hyperspace. Now." The Council fleet turned to flee, but the damage was done. 40 ships destroyed. Another 50 crippled. The rest escaped into hyperspace, leaving behind a graveyard of broken vessels and shattered pride. Captain Russell's voice came one last time. "Next time, Admiral, remember, size isn't everything. This was just our first line of defense. Don't make us show you the rest." As Reed's damaged flagship limped away from Earth, he realized the terrible truth. They hadn't been dealing with a primitive species playing at space travel. They'd been dealing with humans, and they had badly underestimated them. The real war was just beginning. The Council's emergency session was chaos. Representatives from 50 alien races shouted and argued as footage from the battle played on the giant screens above. The images showed Council warships being torn apart by swarms of human drones and precise energy weapons. Admiral Reed stood before them, his blue skin now pale with exhaustion. "The humans deceived us," he said, his voice shaking. "Their ships, they're not simple vessels. They're carriers, super carriers." New images appeared on the screens. Detailed scans of the human ships taken during the battle. What looked like ordinary hull plates were actually layered systems of weapons, drone bays, and advanced technology. Each tiny ship could launch over 1,000 combat drones. "How?" demanded the rock person representative, their crystalline form vibrating with anger. "How did we miss this?" A human transmission interrupted the meeting. The main screen switched to show Captain Russell, sitting calmly in his command chair. "Greetings, Council members," he said. "I believe it's time we had an honest discussion about human technology." The chamber fell silent. Even Admiral Reed stopped speaking. "You see," Russell continued, "humans learned something important during our own wars. Bigger isn't better. Smarter is better." He pressed a button, and a hologram appeared in the Council chamber. The hologram showed a human ship transforming. Layers peeled away like an onion, revealing the incredible complexity hidden within. Quantum computers, drone factories that could build new units during battle, energy systems that could adapt to any attack. "While you built bigger ships," Russell explained, "we built smarter ones. Our vessels aren't just ships. They're mobile fortresses, carrier groups, and factories combined. Each one can match a fleet of your largest warships." The Council members watched in stunned silence as more technical data appeared. The human ships could reconfigure themselves mid-battle, adapting to any threat. Their drone swarms were controlled by advanced AI systems that could outthink any conventional defense. But this is impossible," one of the Council scientists protested. "No ship that small could contain all this technology." Russell smiled. "Quantum engineering, friends. We learned to fold space inside our ships. What looks small on the outside can hold entire manufacturing facilities within. Every human vessel is a pocket universe of military technology." Admiral Reed stepped forward. "Why reveal this now?" "Because," Russell replied, "we want to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. You thought you could bully Earth into submission. You were wrong. But we're still open to peaceful relations, as equals." The Council chamber erupted again. Some representatives were calling for immediate peace talks. Others wanted to launch a full-scale war. A few were already trying to negotiate private agreements with the humans. In the midst of the chaos, a junior Council member rushed in with new reports. 3 major Council trading posts had just detected human ships nearby. The tiny fleet had split up after the battle, spreading through Council space like a ghost force. "They're everywhere," the junior member gasped. Small groups of human ships, 2 here, 3 there, each one capable of defeating an entire battle fleet. Reed finished, finally understanding the true scale of their mistake. They're not running from us. They're positioning themselves. Captain Russell nodded on the screen. Smart man, Admiral. Every human ship you see is a complete military force. We don't need huge fleets. We don't need massive warships. We just need smart deployment and smarter technology. The Council's military advisor stood up, their tentacles waving in agitation. Our entire defense strategy is based on overwhelming force and superior numbers. Against ships like these, those strategies are obsolete. Russell completed the thought. So, shall we discuss new terms for Earth's membership in the Council? As equals this time. The Council members looked at each other, then at their mighty warships now seeming outdated and clumsy compared to the elegant efficiency of human design. Everything they believed about military power had been turned upside down. In the silence that followed, Captain Russell's words hung in the air. Remember, what you've seen is just the beginning. These are our smallest ships. Do you really want to find out what our larger vessels can do? The Council had mocked the tiny human fleet. Now they realized their mistake. Size wasn't everything. And humanity was about to change the galaxy forever. Commander Alex Thompson stood on the bridge of the human ship Wasp, watching the massive Council shipyard through his tactical display. The facility stretched for kilometers, its docks filled with warships under construction. 6 Council heavy cruisers guarded it, each one dwarfing his vessel. "Team ready?" he asked. "Ready, sir," his tactical officer replied. "All drones prepped. Strike teams on standby." The Wasp had been hiding behind an asteroid for 3 days, gathering intelligence. It was one of 20 human ships now operating deep in Council space, carrying out Operation Starfall. "Begin the attack," Thompson ordered. "Standard protocol. Let's show them what a tiny ship can do." The Wasp emerged from hiding, its hull shifting and transforming. What looked like a small patrol vessel suddenly bristled with weapons. Launch bays opened, releasing clouds of combat drones. "Sir," one of the Council guards shouted aboard their lead ship. "Human vessel detected. Only one small. Wait." Detecting multiple drone launches. The Council cruisers turned to face the threat, their massive guns charging. But they had learned nothing from their previous defeat. The human drones were already among them, targeting engines and weapon systems with precise strikes. "Launch Phase 2, Thompson commanded. New compartments opened in the Wasp's hull. Dozens of stealth pods shot out, each carrying a team of combat robots. While the drones kept the Council ships busy, these pods attached to the shipyard's hull. "Boarding robots deployed," the tactical officer reported. "They're cutting their way in." Inside the shipyard, alarms blared. Council security forces rushed to defend their facility, but they were fighting an enemy they couldn't match. The human combat robots were small, fast, and deadly efficient. They moved through the shipyard's corridors, disabling systems and planting quantum charges. Thompson watched the operation unfold on his screens. Status of Council reinforcements. 3 fleets responding, sir. Nearest is 20 minutes out. Plenty of time, Thompson smiled. Begin broadcast. His message went out to every screen in the shipyard. "This is Commander Thompson of Earth Defense Force. You have 10 minutes to evacuate. We're not here for lives, just the shipyard." The Council forces didn't believe him at first, but as more systems fell to the robot attackers, as more drones disabled their defenses, the truth became clear. This wasn't a random raid. This was a carefully planned military strike. 5 minutes, Thompson announced. "Your life pods are untouched. Use them." The Council commanders finally gave the evacuation order. Workers and soldiers rushed to the escape pods, watching in disbelief as a single human ship dismantled their defenses. In orbit, the Wasp continued its dance with the Council cruisers. Its advanced shields absorbed their attacks while its drones systematically stripped away their capabilities, not destroying them, just making them helpless. Final countdown. Thompson said, "All teams, pull back." The combat robots retreated to their pods, their work done. The drones formed up around the Wasp, creating a protective screen. Council escape pods stringed away from the shipyard, carrying terrified workers to safety. 3, 2, 1. The quantum charges detonated, but instead of explosions, spheres of distorted space appeared throughout the shipyard. Metal, machinery, and partially built warships were pulled into these quantum singularities, disappearing completely. When the effect ended, the massive shipyard was just empty framework. Target neutralized, the tactical officer reported. No casualties. Thompson nodded. Send the final message. On every council communication channel, his words appeared. This was one ship. We have 20 more just like it, targeting military installations across council space. Still think size matters. The Wasp turned away from the devastated shipyard. It told smoothly, transforming back into its innocent-looking travel configuration. The drones and robot pods disappeared into hidden bays. By the time council reinforcements arrived, they found only their own crippled cruisers and a gutted shipyard. In the next few hours, similar reports flooded in from across council space. Shipyards, weapon factories, and military bases, all struck by single human vessels. No casualties, but devastating damage to the council's military capabilities. The tiny fleet wasn't so tiny anymore. And this was just the beginning. The council's high-security chamber had never been so tense. Admiral Reed stood before the Emergency War Committee, his career and freedom hanging by a thread. The screens behind him showed the devastating results of the human counterattack. 23 shipyards destroyed, 15 weapons factories disabled, and 38 military bases stripped of their advanced technology. How could you let this happen? The chief counselor demanded, all 4 of his eyes blazing with anger. Your arrogance has cost us half our military production capability. Reed's voice was hollow as he responded. We didn't understand what we were facing. Their ships are unlike anything in galactic history. A new alert flashed across the screens. Another human vessel had been detected, this time near the Council's main fleet base. But instead of attacking, it was broadcasting a message on all frequencies. This is Captain Lisa Hall of Earth Defense Force. The transmission began. Your remaining battle groups are attempting to gather for a final strike against Earth. We're giving you one last chance to avoid further conflict. The council members looked at each other nervously. Their secret plan had been discovered again. 3 of your largest remaining fleets are converging on these coordinates. Captain Hall continued, as tactical data appeared on the screens. 500 ships. Impressive. Would you like to know how many human vessels are waiting for them? The tactical display zoomed out, showing dozens of small signatures scattered throughout the region. Each one was a human ship, positioned perfectly to intercept the Council forces. Just 25, Hall said calmly. 25 against 500. But after everything that's happened, do those numbers still make you confident? Reed watched as his carefully planned counterattack fell apart. Several council races were already withdrawing their ships, refusing to participate. Others were actively seeking human protection. This is outrageous, shouted one of the militant council members. We cannot let these humans dictate terms to us. Launch the attack now. Captain Hall's voice remained steady. Very well. You have your forces. We have our technology. Let's see which works better. The transmission cut off. Moments later, new alerts flooded the chamber. The human ships had begun to move. Show us the battle, the chief counselor ordered. The main screen came to life, displaying the massive council fleet. It was an impressive sight. Hundreds of huge warships, arranged in perfect battle formation. Then the human vessels appeared. What happened next would be studied in military academies for centuries. The human ships didn't just fight. They rewrote the rules of space combat. Their drone swarms moved like living things, adapting instantly to every Council tactic. Their quantum weapons created localized fields where Council technology simply stopped working. Their shields absorbed impossible amounts of energy. Status report, the Chief Counselor demanded. We've lost 200 ships already, an officer stammered. Not destroyed, disabled. The humans are systematically shutting down every system we have. Our weapons, engines, even life support. They're just turning them off. Reed watched in silent horror as his last, desperate gamble collapsed. The mighty Council fleet hung helpless in space, their massive ships now little more than metal shells. Not a single human vessel had been damaged. Captain Hall's transmission returned. The battle is over. Your crews are unharmed. Emergency power and life support will continue functioning. We're sending rescue ships to evacuate your personnel. The Council chamber erupted in chaos. Some members were calling for immediate surrender. Others were already drafting peace proposals. The military hardliners sat in stunned silence. One last thing, Hall added. We've detected Admiral Reed in your war chamber. We'd like him to see something. A new image appeared. It showed Earth's orbital space. There, floating in high orbit, were vessels that dwarfed anything the Council had ever built. Real human warships, not the small interceptors that had defeated them so thoroughly. These are our actual military vessels, Admiral, Hall explained. The ships you've been fighting. Those are our patrol boats. Our smallest craft. We really hoped we wouldn't have to show you the rest of our fleet. The chamber fell silent. The message was clear. The Council hadn't just been defeated. They had been defeated by humanity's smallest ships, while the real power of Earth remained untouched. The reckoning had come, and with it, the galaxy's balance of power changed forever. 6 months after the final battle, the Great Hall of Earth hosted its first Galactic Council meeting. The circular chamber, built in record time using human quantum engineering, could hold representatives from over 200 species. Today it was full. Admiral Reed stood at the entrance, adjusting his new uniform. Gone was his Council military rank. Now he wore the simple blue suit of a diplomatic liaison. His job was to help the Council races understand and work with humans. It was a humbling position, but he had requested it himself. Quite a change, isn't it? Ambassador Parker appeared beside him, smiling warmly. From mocking our tiny ships to learning from them. Reed nodded. I was blind. We all were. We thought we knew everything about space warfare, about technology. We were like children playing with toys. Inside the hall, Captain Russell was presenting the new Galactic Defense Initiative. The screen showed designs for a joint defense force. Human ships working alongside modernized Council vessels. The age of giant, vulnerable warships is over, Russell explained. The future is smart, adaptable vessels. Size doesn't matter, efficiency does. Earth is willing to share this technology with all peaceful members of the new Council. The chamber buzzed with excitement. Already, 15 Council races had begun retrofitting their ships with human innovations. The quantum compression technology alone had revolutionized space travel. Ships could now carry 10 times the cargo in half the space. But what about the large human warships? Someone asked. The ones we saw in Earth orbit. Russell smiled. Those serve as mobile construction yards and research centers now. We found better ways to protect our interests than brute force. In orbit above Earth, the change was already visible. Council ships, once massive and clumsy, were being rebuilt into sleeker, more efficient designs. The shipyards worked constantly, upgrading vessels with human technology. Trade volume has increased by 300%, a Rock Person representative reported. The new quantum storage systems have transformed our merchant fleets. Even our smallest cargo ships can carry more than our old bulk haulers. Admiral Reed watched as more reports came in. The galaxy was changing faster than anyone had expected. Humanity's influence had spread far beyond military matters. Their approach to technology, favoring efficiency and innovation over size and power, was reshaping every aspect of galactic society. "There's a transport ship leaving for the Centauri colonies," Parker said to Reed. "Ready for your first teaching assignment." Reed straightened his back. "Yes, the younger races need to understand why we were wrong, why our old ways of thinking failed. And what will you tell them?" "The truth. That humanity taught us the greatest lesson in galactic history. Never judge by appearances. Never assume bigger means better. And never, ever underestimate a species that thinks differently than you do." The meeting continued as they spoke. Plans were approved for joint scientific missions. Trade agreements were signed. Defense treaties were ratified. The galaxy was entering a new age of cooperation and innovation. In the space around Earth, a small human patrol ship passed by a massive, old-style council cruiser. The size difference was still striking, but now everyone understood which vessel was truly more powerful. "One last thing," Russell announced to the chamber. "We've detected signals from a new spacefaring race at the edge of known space. They're just beginning their journey to the stars. How shall we approach them?" The chamber was quiet for a moment. Then Admiral Reed stepped forward. "With respect," he said firmly, "with wisdom, and with the humility to recognize that they might surprise us, just as humanity did." Ambassador Parker nodded approvingly. The council races had learned their lesson. The galaxy would never again make the mistake of judging a civilization by the size of its ships. As the meeting ended, Reed looked out the window at Earth's sky. Somewhere out there, human patrol ships continued their quiet duties, their small size concealing enormous power. They were proof that the greatest strength often came in the most unexpected packages. The Council had mocked the tiny fleet. Now they thanked the stars for it, and for the revolution in thinking it had brought to their galaxy. In the end, size truly hadn't mattered. Innovation, efficiency, and wisdom had won the day, and the galaxy was better for it.